It is Motivation Monday for everybody here, so I welcome you. I'm Robert. I'm one of the training specialists here with the NatGen team. And I am more or less one of the Medicare specialists as well too. So, a lot of my Motivation Mondays have a little bit of leaning Medicare-ishness to it. But at the same time, though, a lot of the lessons that we learn each Monday are lessons that can be applied, not necessarily even in the Medicare world and the Medicare realm, but even in the OEP realm, now that it's open enrollment, and then even going forward in everybody's day-to-day lifestyles as well too. So any lessons that are taught here or even in any training can always be applied in any aspect of your life. So it's something that I really enjoy doing every Monday. And just so that everybody is aware, these Motivation Mondays for about the end of the year, well, they'll be a little bit shorter. I mean, they won't be going over half an hour, but a little bit shorter. Dan and I and the team are looking at maybe a little bit an opportunity to maybe spice things up and revamp this a little bit and maybe make the Motivation Mondays even more motivating as the weeks and months move forward. So, keep an eye out. There definitely be some changes towards the beginning of the year here. We'll definitely send that information out to you and let everybody know as that's coming. But as for now, we're just going to be doing some real quick lessons each Monday and hope to keep everybody just kind of on top of everything as far as statistics are speaking and any of those ongoing tips. If you haven't joined us every Monday, I'm going to go over a couple real quick steps here, and we'll actually see what each of these Mondays entail. But what we usually do is we're going to start out today with a nice quote by Zig Ziglar here. If you're probably pretty familiar with him, as far as the business world, he has some an amazing quotations and just some amazing lessons that can be actually applied into your daily life, especially with today's lesson that we're going to learn later as far as our sales technique. This really is really a good application for that. And what he says today is that if you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. But if you're determined to learn, no one can stop you. And basically that just means that you're in charge of your own destiny. If you are really determined to learn, no one's going to stop you. No one's going to be able to get in your way to learn what you want to learn and to be able to take out of anything in any part of life what you'd like to take out of. So again, it is Motivation Monday. I am here to provide you some wonderful, amazing tips of the week today. And we're going to go over some AHCP trends as well. Right after that, we'll touch on some of the sales leaders, and then we're going to get into a real quick sales technique of the week as well too. So if you haven't joined us, that's kind of the flow of what each Monday does. Just hoping to kind of get out there and really just as Monday starts, just kind of energize everybody and really kind of get a good foot as the week goes on this week. So again, as the weeks go on, these will be pretty quick and pretty to the point in that regard. But as the beginning of the year rolls in, we're going to kind of maybe change things up a little bit, and maybe see if we can get some a little bit of different things pushed in here to maybe to get the flow of every Monday a little bit different, to maybe kind of change things up. It's always good. It's always nice to allow the process to change and be a little bit different. But with that said, and please pardon me this morning, my nose is a little bit stuffy. It's that time of the year. Everybody gets the colds and the sinus issues going on, but hopefully you can bear with me there. So what we're going to do here is real quick. The last week, what I did is I actually really quickly went over the NatGen the monthly sprints that are going on with NatGen for the tips of the week. We actually went over, first of all, last week, the Medicare supplement policy tip in regards to the Fast Cash monthly sprint. And what that was is that if you actually were selling 8 Medicare supplement policies, you could earn an extra $100 for each October sale. And what it basically did is that if you sold 28 Medicare supplement policies in December, you could earn an extra $150 for each December sale. The numbers actually are going to reset every month, so it's actually a new series of sprint as the month goes on. So it was kind of a reminder last week that one was out there, as well as the other one that's still ongoing for the NatGen side, which is their trip to Cabo. That one's actually the same way as the monthly sprint. That's going from October 1st to December 31st. Now on this one though, if you sell 100 NatGen Medicare sub policies, they're actually going to send you to Cabo. The nice thing about that is that if you actually bump it up and you go up to the 150, they're actually going to send you in a guest. And if you do end up being the top selling writing agent overall, they're going to send you in a guest and actually upgrade you to a nice, wonderful private suite. Amazing stuff, right? The nice thing about this though as we've actually seen each week as the tips of the weeks go on, and being this week's tip of the week, is I do want to remind you to always keep your eyes on those sales incentive pages year round. You know, right now, as the AEP season and the OEP season are out there, these actual incentives have been about the same for the last couple months, but it is always a good idea to keep your eye on what's going on that page, onto the AHCP sales page. And just to, you know, just even as a quick snapshot of what's happening here, we've just got the 6 that I put up here from Humana, Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare. There's at least another, I think that there's a total of 15 or 16 ongoing sales incentives right now. So they've got trips out there, they got cash you can win, they got sun, they got fun. There's a lot of stuff that's actually ongoing. So remember to always keep your eyes on that sales incentive page year round. It might not always necessarily be a tip of the week, so you always want to make sure that you just keep an eye on it and just see what's going on. Nothing wrong with earning a little bit extra cash, especially in as well as the December and the holiday season that's coming on. It's always something that can actually do really good in your pocket there. So next thing that we're going to go over here is a little bit of the trends for the week. So I actually have some amazing news today. We had increases across the board. It was some really good numbers. Now, last week we had a slight decrease in the short-term medical and the fixed benefit, which is actually it's a little bit common during this time with OEP out and AEP going. But, you know, interestingly enough, being that it was a down week, last week we bounced back really strong on the short-term side and the fixed benefit side. You know, NHIC is leading the way almost all across the board here. You know, as far as critical illness and dental, we had Assurant and Golden Rule jumping in there, but AHIC is just pushing it, and I am amazingly excited for this. Really good numbers that are being put up here on the accident side, the critical side, and the dental side. Really good stuff, everybody. You guys are out there and kicking it, and even though it is OEP, you are remembering the bundling. That's always really good stuff. So great job, everybody, on that, in remembering that. But you guys are kicking butt with the NHIC products. Now, as far as the trends are concerned, the next thing we're going to actually jump into is the individual shout outs. So on the limited benefit side this week, we had a little bit of a shakeup from last week. Last week we had Kirk, Nicole, and Day out there, but this week, amazing job to you, Kent, in first place, Daniel in second, and Joshua out in third place this week. Actually, it's the first time that I've seen your name, at least in a few weeks, so really good job. You guys are really getting out there and pushing it. So amazing work to all 3 of you and to everybody. You know, we've had some change ups in the leaderboards over the last few weeks, and that's excellent to see. There's some really good pride out there with who's pushing the benefits. Really good job, everybody. On the short-term med side, we have Jason, Mark, and Jacob. Excellent job, everybody. Jacob, you went a little bit down this week, but that's okay. You know, Jason and Mark, they were pushing up into first and second place. You guys are doing an amazing job. Katya and Susan, last week, you were up on the board as well too. So I give a really good shout out to everybody. An amazing job. I like to see the names change. I like to see the energy and the enthusiasm of getting your names up on the boards. Everybody's doing an amazing job this week. Now, what we've been doing over the past 2 or 3 weeks, especially with OEP rolling out and AEP just prior to that rolling out, you know, Dan a couple weeks ago, he actually for his sales technique went over a really good 10 steps for having a really good, effective and positive OEP. You know, everything from getting those pre-settings done early, going over things like boundaries and social media, and, you know, making sure that you're cleaning up your supplements, and of course, as his last step was down to make sure to always relax, which is what I kind of actually followed up with last week, in the fact that, you know, not necessarily that you're wanting to have an effective OEP, but you also want to make sure that you're always staying healthy during OEP, because, you know, as my cold today will even show, everybody sometimes tends to get sick, at least at some time of the year, but you always want to make sure that you're nurturing your basic health. You know, make sure that you're working smart and not harder, always utilizing your technology. Remember to have fun, because if you're not having fun and you're just sitting down and kind of draining at it, you know, that actually will have a negative aspect on the whole mental process as well too. So if you just kind of take a second out every once in a while to have fun as well too, that actually even helps overall nurturing your basic health. Now, with that said, what we're going to actually look at really quickly today is really kind of dive into the top 3 post-enrollment challenges that agents will actually face. And what I mean by challenges are, these are the top 3 things that have actually been reported that a consumer would either contact us about later on post OEP or even post AEP to say that there was an issue with something. So what we'd like to do is really look at those 3 challenges and see what you can do to prevent that right now, and what you can actually do to some kind of tips to help get over those roadblocks so that when OEP and AEP close, it won't be something that you even really have to worry about. So with that said, we'll dive right in. The very first most common complaint or the most common concern and challenge that an individual will see post OEP and post AEP is that a client will actually contact us back and say that there was some sort of an issue with either the way they presented the benefits in general or just even the content of what was presented. 42% of most of the post-enrollment issues that we encounter is surrounding benefits in their presentations. The main thing that this actually involves is really the misquoting of the medical benefits, or even, let's say, the misquotation of like the prescription benefits, or even just in general providing incorrect information just across the board. So, what can you really do to avoid these kind of roadblocks or these post-enrollment challenges? The main thing to remember is to always take your time, of course. You want to take your time to review all the features and the benefits of the plan, including the prescriptions, if applicable, of course. A thorough review of the plan really is going to overall decrease the likelihood of any sort of like a quote unquote buyer's remorse even. And it in general, across the board, will decrease any sort of a post-challenge or a post-roadblock complaint that an enrollee might present in that aspect. The main thing to remember is that, full disclosure of those benefits and full disclosure during that presentation means fewer sales lost due to enrollment cancellation or even just in general disenrollment. You want to make sure that you always go through those summary of benefits and conduct a thorough review of the plan's benefits of when you're going through that. The main thing to really take out of that is an easy step to remember is that you can just ask them to highlight the benefit that they find the most important, and then make sure that you really do a deep dive into that. You want to remind them that want to remind beneficiaries that of the plan year for the benefits and the cost shares being presented. For example, like on the AEP side, for AEP enrollments, you want to remind them that the benefits and the cost shares are for that upcoming plan year. It really kind of just really involves around taking your time, making sure that you dive into the entire process and go through it. As long as you are taking the time to go through the full summary of benefits and going over everything, that's really going to decrease this. And this being the most I don't like to ever really even use the word complaint. I would say it's the most contacted issue or the most contacted reason that somebody would contact us back. And the easy thing to do to get around that is to just take your time and make sure that you go through each process and each benefit in full. Just don't assume, for example, that a drug covered last year might still be on the formulary this year. Or, when estimating like prescription coverages, make sure that you verify the dosage in the form of the medication. That can even be like tablets versus liquid. Make sure that you're using the right calculator tools as far as any prescription or benefit plans, and really just take your time. Follow-up questions and making sure that you're doing full needs analysis will really take the place of trying to rush through and get as many contacts in as possible versus getting as much quality contacts in as possible. So it's in this time, I know that the quality and the contact high levels can actually sometimes take the place of one another, but really you do want to at least just take a breath at a moment and just making sure that you're taking your time, because then turning those contacts into quality contacts will mean the difference between this 42% of the post-enrollment issue actually taking place or not. Now, on the second part of this, the second most contacted under basically 37% of most of the post-enrollment issues generally surround the eligibility in the enrollment area. What that means is, for example, that they might not even requested the enrollment, or they were enrolled in the wrong plan, or it's simply just an application issue or an application error. They really can result from a variety of different causes. I've seen agents just fully enroll a member in the wrong plan, and they can enroll a beneficiary into a plan other than what was really presented, or an agent could even require the beneficiary to complete an enrollment application to receive plan information, or they just didn't want to be enrolled in the plan, but the agent submitted the application anyway. These are really simple things that can actually be avoided, again, really just kind of taking your time. But the main thing on this one is making sure to always review the application for accuracy, because the main problem with this is that the application issues, the errors, while you might not think it's something that's going to be big, could come back and actually cause a disenrollment in the end. You know, sometimes I've even heard that a beneficiary is going to allege that they were misled regarding the type of plan that they were enrolled into. So like on the AEP side, for example, they could be enrolled into a Medicare Advantage plan when they were expecting a supplement, or, you know, vice versa. Really, again, it all comes down to just kind of taking your time, making sure that you're reviewing the entire application, the entire process fully for its accuracy before submitting the enrollment. You know, and that sometimes that can even be like a physician's name is misspelled, or communicating an incorrect of effective date, which, remember, an effective date is always a proposed date. You know, there could even be a failure to read a required disclosure, or to advise about a waiting period for certain services. Really, again, it just involves kind of taking your time and just making sure that you review everything for accuracy, and then you can avoid this entirely. And the last third thing, and this is usually about 15% of the time, is really about the provider participation. You know, and this is just simply making sure that the provider is either in network or is not in network. You know, there are a lot of good provider search tools out there for the individual carriers, whichever one that's going to be done, depending upon, you know, the quoting tool that you're actually using and the platform that's going on. You know, sometimes it can actually even be assumed that the provider is still in network from last year, and that's actually something that can easily be corrected. Again, the main thing to take away on this one is that when in doubt, check it out. Just kind of go through, make sure that you're using those provider lookup tools, make sure that you're ensuring that you are 100% familiar with the physician lookup tools that are available. Always remember to confirm that an in-network PCP is identified during the enrollment, especially for things like HMO plans on the AEP side, and even on the OEP side. Those HMO plans are critical as far as the primary care physician is concerned. On the AEP side, you want to even look into making sure that you educate all your Medicare beneficiaries about the rules and requirements, even if they surround as far as the utilization of a PCP. You know, make sure to explain the implications of using out-of-network providers, if there is an out-of-network coverage, or if there isn't out-of-network coverage. You know, providers that are out-of-network typically are covered only for emergencies usually, or sometimes like urgently need care. So make sure that you really kind of go over and check those out. So the main thing out of all three of these things to kind of take away of this is it really just makes sure to take your time. And taking your time during AEP and taking your time during OEP is something that kind of, you know, it can actually go by the wayside, especially with the amount of volume that we're dealing with during these open enrollment periods on each side of the coin. So even though you might feel pressured and you might feel stressed to kind of get through the call and make sure that you take the next one, or get through the contact and make sure that you set the next appointment, just remember to always just take a little bit of a step back, take a breath, make sure that you're fully completing everything that needs to be done, making sure that you take your time on the enrollment applications, going over the provider information and what you need to on each individual contact. Making sure that it's a quality contact is always better than quantity. So with that said, that is today's lesson. Really quick, right? Some good stuff. Remember, if you do have any questions for us here on the training side, you can always reach out to training@ahcpsales.com, or agency services at 877-228-8773. Now, out of all three of the things that we talked about today and taking your time, the good thing about that, though, is that you can always learn more. And remember that if you're determined to learn, nobody can stop you. But if you're not willing to learn, no one can help you in that aspect either. So kind of keep that in heart as the day moves on, and I hope that everybody has an amazing Monday today. It's going to be a great week. I hope that everybody gets out there and hits it hard this week. You've been doing an amazing job, everybody. I commend everybody for their work. So take care, and I will talk with you shortly. Thank you, and cheers, everybody.